What you are listening to now is the Central Indiana Sports Report podcast number 342.1, the College Football Report with Eric and Ryan Robinson. This week with special guest Grant Shouse talking about the SEC and national storylines. And with Grant here, we talk a little IU football as well and revisit Coach Zignetti's controversial comments on IU's schedule.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Welcome, college football fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report for the College Football Report with Eric and Ryan Robinson. Here today to talk a little SEC, a little national picture, getting really close to another college football season. Welcome, Eric. Welcome, Ryan. And we'll start with Ryan because he's on the phone. Give us your number one headline going into the season.
The number one headline going into, as far as the SEC goes, is quarterback play. And we got some good ones coming back this year. Some proven, some unproven, but I think this whole conference is going to revolve around quarterback play, like most college football does.
No doubt about it. I think it's even more important than NFL quarterbacking, don't you think, Eric?
Yeah, I would agree. This whole year, you look across all the conferences. I can't remember a time where so many teams are starting over and fresh at quarterback. There's a lot of unknowns with, big time programs. So we can call it the year of the quarterback already.
And some that we know are going to be great.
Yeah, definitely. But also my headline for the year would be the NIL and the playoff and where college football is headed. This is going to be a big year. A lot of changes have already been made in the last week or two. And there's so much to navigate through. It's really the landscape and how these athletes are getting paid and it's going to be a lot to really go through, a lot of changes.
Well, let's start there, Eric. What does the landscape look like because of the NIL, and is Clemson are they one that's starting to catch on? Because last year at this time you said, I think Clemson's being left behind.
Yeah, I think Ryan mentioned it first, but this year Dabo, they've got $15.5 million in NIL they're spending. They actually dipped into the portal for a few players. But just on the national scene, the NIL, schools are allowed to use $20.5 million on college football. That's across the board. They're eliminating. Trump came out with executive order. I don't want to get too long-winded on this, but the executive order, which from a college football fan, I'm glad it came to light. I don't really like politics being involved in my sports at all.
Exactly.
But I think something had to be done. A lot of people were calling the NIL the Wild Wild West.
Yeah, but politically, don't you say, if a kid can get it, why wouldn't they?
And that's the counterpart to this executive order.
I don't like college kids being paid. To me, college sports was better before they were officially being paid.
Correct.
But if you're going to do it, make it the Wild Wild West. Why do you care?
Well, I think the NCAA is trying to hang on to. They hate the term "pay for play," and when you allow third-party people and boosters to start paying these kids outside of the NIL, then it turns into the Wild Wild West. You look at Texas Tech. Look what Texas Tech is doing. It's no secret and no surprise. The top two NIL schools and schools raising money. Texas Tech. Where's all the money? These big oil companies. And
I thought Oklahoma State would be the first to jump on with T. Boone Pickens. I thought they'd win the first 5 national championships, but it's not quite like that.
Yeah, but you have a booster at Texas Tech, a billionaire. They've got $55 million in NIL they're going to spend this year on all sports.
Good, let him do it.
I know, but
I get it.
Where do we want to draw the line?
We don't.
I think I do. I would like to see it drawn, and I'm glad.
Which side do you fall on, Ryan?
Well, I mean, it needs to be. I get. I mean, I agree with the third party involvement, but how are you going to divide that money up? The executive order says things like Olympic sports. Is that going to be 1% compared to 85% towards football? And we both know the answer to that. It's
Of course, and it should be.
Yeah, and if you're going to get $55 million in booster money and NIL, I guarantee in the SEC, $50 million is going towards football program.
Well, the thing that's in the order that I think is critical is this. Let's say the scenario you just mentioned, Ryan. We know basketball and football are the revenue makers for all the universities. So if a university wanted to put all of their revenue into that NIL or into invest into basketball or just football, the executive order calls for any school making more than 50 million in revenue to maintain all the current non-revenue scholarship levels that they currently have. And if you make over 125 million in revenue, you have to increase scholarships on non-revenue making sports. So I think that's a good thing. And those numbers are not just picked out of the air, because every school in the 5 major conferences make between 50 million and 125 million in revenue. Everything, that order makes every school keep everything just like it is right now and not cut sports, not cut scholarships. So I think that's the key part right now, a key part.
Last thing I want to say about this is what this does is just make it like it was. And you're going to have people following the rules and others not following the rules. And so you have to have enforcement or it doesn't work.
There is enforcement. And one thing the Power Four conferences have also done just in the last 2 weeks, they formed a college sports commission. What the commission's going to do, and every school's going to have to sign the contract. If they don't sign the contract, they're going to get blacklisted and blackballed, and they're going to get run out. You're going to sign this contract, and all of your books, all your NIL, all the money raising, all your payments are going to be,
except for what's under the table, which is what's going to make,
which is the third party stuff.
Exactly.
That's always going to be
it's
there.
It's going to happen anyway. You might as well let it happen.
We're seeing this is the beginning.
You think Kentucky is not going to pay more than their boosters are not going to try to pay these kids more? You think that's not going to happen?
No.
I think the one thing that may be missed amongst this whole thing is, do you think there's a underlying issue with female sports and the involvement and financial status they're getting?
I don't think so. I think it's a good deal for them as well. It's not equitable, but the money brought in isn't equitable either. So
it's going to maintain stability. And I think if you're in a non-revenue sport or you're going to Morehead State on a golf scholarship, I think this is really good for you.
And we welcome Grant Shouse to the Central Indiana Sports Report College Football Report with Eric and Ryan. Grant, of course, is our IU guy. We're talking some SEC today, but Grant loves college football no matter what the conference, so wanted to bring him aboard. Welcome, Grant.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
Hey, Grant, let me start off before we get into the SEC. I was pretty hard on Indiana in their scheduling. I just want to know what your take is on it. And since I've made my comments on the podcast, I've seen some more things pop up online, and Indiana is just getting annihilated on their scheduling decision. So I just wonder what your thoughts are.
Hold on. Also, the coach fanned the flame by saying something stupid, I thought, which was not even factual, which I said on the IU report last week. I went through the SEC schedules. They all play at least one good team. And not only that, they're not even playing a MAC school. They're playing Kennesaw State and Indiana. Sorry, go ahead, Grant. Your thoughts.
It's a good question, and it's a question I knew that was going to be asked before I even got on here. so I've been thinking about my answer, and here's what I tell you. I think the way they want to look at it, I think the way Indiana wants to look at it is the fact that Indiana's going to try and beat whoever they want to beat. Now, we're talking about them canceling a series with Virginia, which
It's a good series.
I mean, that's a good matchup for what Indiana has been. But people, I think, rail on Indiana too much is because Indiana's not a brand. It's not a brand school. It's not Michigan. It's not Ohio State. It's not Penn State. It's not Oregon, etc. And if it was one of those, then I almost feel like people wouldn't bat an eye. But because it's Indiana and it's because they're kind of they are on the rise. I mean, they're a good football team now, and they're quite literally the worst historical college football team of all time. I think that people, for some reason, when it comes to college football, people don't like when there's a Cinderella. They don't like when a slipper or when the slipper fits. Now, with college basketball, where people love the Cinderella story come March, I don't get why people don't like that in college football.
I do.
It's not just Indiana that's been railed. I think Indiana's at the center.
I was cheering for Boise State and SMU last year. I'm for the underdog.
Oh, I agree. I'm for the underdog too, but there's a lot of people that for some reason aren't. And but talking about canceling the series with Virginia, it's not a good look, man. I mean, I hate to say it, it's not a good look for Indiana's program. No, that's not to say that they can't replace that with something better. We may be jumping the gun too quickly and saying, oh, well, they're canceling that series with Virginia because they want to add another cupcake. No, they may be canceling that series because they want to add a bigger Power 5 up front. We have no idea. I'm just speaking hype.
If Cignetti hadn't said what he said, I might agree with you.
I think for me, and I'm not being hard on you, Grant. I love IU. I hope IU wins every game. But when you have a head coach, it's just such a huge contradiction to me when you have a coach sit at a podium and say, all I do is win, Google me. Well, yeah, when you play Kennesaw State and you're dropping Virginia, who's not very good anyways. They've had 6 losing seasons in a row. It's a terrible look. And like Greg said, had Cignetti not said what he said last week at the media day about the wins or strength of schedule don't mean anything to the playoff, I'm paraphrasing. Yeah. He said something really idiotic, I think.
It's wrong. He's not even true.
I don't think Indiana's non-conference schedule this year is that unjustified when you're playing Illinois, who's going to be a top 15 team.
This
year, you're playing Iowa, who's going to be ranked. Oregon, Penn State, and then you have, I think, teams that are going to be better.
Grant, I think we can all agree that it's excusable this year because the program 2 years ago wasn't very good. But it's not excusable next year, and he's making excuses for next year, Ryan.
I agree with some of it, but I don't want to pile on Grant, but he's the IU guy, so I just want to pose a question to him that we talked about when we did our Big Ten preview, and that is, as quick as the fan base supported IU football, because Lord knows we need a great football program. This has been amazing. Starving for it for countless years. If this year's as much momentum as IU football gained last year, if this year IU starts out 4-2, which, assuming they win their first 3 games, should be 3 wins, but then they win the Maryland game but lose to Iowa and Illinois, and they're 1-2 in conference, are people going to fall off that bandwagon that as fast as they jumped on it? What do you think?
That's a good question, and this is something I've talked about with people, is that Indiana could have gone 7-5 last year. They could have gone 8-4, and the fan base would still be the way it is now.
Right.
I mean, I mean, again, we have watched this team be in the depths of hell for forever. And so a semi-good season, like a 7-5 or an 8-4, and you get in your bowl game, and you either win it or you just compete in your bowl game, maybe lose. I have no idea, but it doesn't really matter. I think the fans would still be the way they are now if that had been the case. Indiana's schedule last year, I can admit, probably wasn't the best schedule. Like, oh, we didn't play anybody. It's like, okay, well, what are we supposed to do about it? We go out on the field every week and we're trying to win the game. Isn't that the point of playing?
Right.
It's to try and win.
They still went up and won.
Yeah, exactly. And the two teams they lost to were the first and the second best team in the nation last year when it was all said and done. And I think playing a maybe a weaker schedule, teams that weren't very good, like Northwestern, like Purdue, like Maryland, who didn't have a great season. Yeah, that didn't help you come Ohio State. It didn't help you come Notre Dame.
But it did help them get in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I still wouldn't trade that. I mean, even a playoff appearance, even if you don't win, is something to celebrate.
One of the great,
especially when you went 3-9 the year before and you turn it around the next year and you go 11-2. I mean, it's remarkable, but
one of the great stories in the history of our state, for sure.
Absolutely, football. And I see your guys' point that Indiana shouldn't be playing these week of non-conference opponents, and I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. But my job here is to play devil's advocate, and when the head coach does come up and say, I win, Google me, that kind of stuff, those things are true. Those things are true. You looked him up, and the things he's done and where he's
been. He's a winner, that's for sure. No one's saying he's not, Grant.
Absolutely. But
he's fantastic.
I think he's a great coach.
But what he said was really, really, really dumb.
I really don't think he's more necessarily a football coach with X's and O's. That's certainly a factor, but I almost think he's like a sports psychologist, and he knows how to read people. Oh. And his former boss, Nick Saban, was the greatest at that kind of stuff, and so you see where that kind of rubbed off on him a little bit. Now, he's obviously not the best coach. I'm not going to say, he's the best coach in the country. No, he's not. He has flaws. He does make mistakes. He does run his mouth a little bit. And it's like, dude, all right, ramp it back a little bit. But we've never had that in the football program. I don't think we've ever had that ever at Indiana. Not even Knight was doing those kind of things.
All right, we're 18 minutes into our SEC preview, and we've only talked about IU football and the state of college football. So let's get to that. Sorry, Grant.
I'll wrap it. That's fine with me. We're going to talk about that all year on the IU
all year. That was what I was going to say next. And we're going to talk about it every week from now till at least the end of January. We're going to be talking IU football.
Just for the record, I'm not critical of IU scheduling. I'm fine with it. And, they got a little bit harder schedule this year. I just want the fan base to stay as supportive. I mean, we've wanted something like this for so long.
I agree.
I don't want them to fail. I don't want them to fail that first sign of problems. So,
would you be happy with what Joe Tiller did at Purdue? Would that be good enough for you?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, he brought them to relevance, and yeah, I think it'd be great if who wouldn't want that?
All I want to see Indiana do is be consistent with this for however long it goes.
Me too.
Like stay between 8-4 and 11-2 or whatever you can do. You know what I mean?
And hope Barry Odoms is the right guy.
Don't be a one-hit wonder.
All right, let's talk some SEC football. And we talked quarterbacks before Grant joined us. And man, is the SEC loaded with some good ones. Theoretically with Manning, but we know with Nussbaum and a lot of them, it is going to be a great year in the SEC, Ryan.
Yeah, and it's all going to be quarterback play. I mean, you look at Gunnar Stockton, Georgia coming back. IU ran him, or Notre Dame ran him all over the field last year, but I look for him to be a little bit more established this year. Grant Nessmeyer is going to continue to do his thing. Seasoned veteran. He'll be leading LSU most of the year. They're going to be a strong contender. But my sleeper is South Carolina and Lenore Sellers. He led him to the 5-3 record in the SEC last year as a freshman. He's back as a sophomore. So I look at South Carolina, and they're kind of like what we talked about Illinois in the Big Ten. I think South Carolina is going to ruffle some feathers, and they're going to be in the talks most of the season.
I 100% agree. That's a great comparison with South Carolina and Illinois. And they played each other in a bowl game last year, and I think their style of play is similar. They have two really good quarterbacks with Altmaier at Illinois and then with Sellers at South Carolina. I really think South Carolina can compete in what's going to be a dominant SEC all year long. I think they can be up there with Texas and Georgia and Alabama and all them. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. And they only lost by like 2 points to Alabama last year, and they finished tied for third in SEC at 5-3. So they had a winning record in SEC play last year. So I think that makes the move.
Well, and Lenore Sellers is going to be a great player on Sundays here in a few years, I think. I mean, he has been developed in a good system, and the style of play, he can run with the ball, he can throw the ball. He's almost a little bit. I almost feel like he's kind of not as good, obviously, but I think is skill-wise comparable maybe to Lamar Jackson in some ways. You know what I mean? He's just so versatile, and he's athletic, and he can do a variety of things out on the field.
I think it's ironic when you look at you mentioned Illinois and South Carolina. You look at the two head coaches. You might have two of the most intense, like borderline psycho coaches in the country, and their teams are playing a lot like their head coaches' attitudes. I mean, Belima and Beamer they're a little bit psycho on the sidelines at times. I mean, they're hardcore, and their teams play a lot alike, physical. I like the South Carolina pick as a sleeper. The schedule for them, I know they go to LSU and they host Alabama, but the rest of their schedule looks really good in the SEC. I had them down as a one sleeper, not really a sleeper. I think they're a legit contender. But I'm going to go down. I'm going to go down the Lane Kiffin hole. Their schedule, if they can get quarterback play, they've got one road game at Georgia. That's going to be difficult. There's no Texas A&M, no Alabama on that Ole Miss schedule. So watch out for Lane Kiffin again. We're going to fall for it.
I'm just not sure why Ole Miss is on the list of storied programs, but
well, I mean, when you just look at all those names, one of those teams is going to finish 9th in conference.
Nuts.
And that's just.
You didn't mention Arkansas. You didn't. I mean, that's a good program too. There are even other programs that are being left out. Missouri, yeah, crazy.
I didn't mention Missouri. I didn't mention Arkansas. But it's just crazy that one of those teams is going to be the 9th best team in that conference. And we talked about, the Big Ten won the last 2 national championships. I think this year the SEC is going to be back in the fold for a national championship by surely Texas or Georgia or Bama or even LSU.
There's a chance that 5 of the best 6 teams in the country are in the SEC this year.
Well, and with the expanded playoff, you might have a couple 2-loss SEC teams make that playoff.
You probably Ohio State and Penn State are probably going to be 2 of the top 5, but if one of them isn't, you could definitely have 4 of the best 5 teams from the SEC this year. Eric's looking at me skeptically.
I am, because I still think the power is in the Big Ten. Man.
Notre Dame and Arizona State. How about Arizona State? Are they on that list too?
Well, they've got a solid quarterback. They know who their quarterback is. You're going to hear me say that all year, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but to me, the quarterback play is just like, I mean,
Of course, yeah.
gosh dang. How many, I mean, Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame are all looking for their quarterback. Alabama, question marks. Texas, I mean, we know it's Arch Manning, but we got to
really seen him.
you know.
Yeah,
Georgia, Gunnar Stockton, what? I mean, he hasn't showed us anything.
exactly.
He ran for his life in the Sugar Bowl.
So that really puts LSU in a really good position.
I've got LSU right now. I mean, I got LSU at the top of the list on my SEC. I think they're number one, and I'm going to put, surprisingly, even with the quarterback question, Alabama right behind them because
ahead of Texas.
they're just so loaded with talent.
But so is Texas, and they could have a great quarterback.
My thing on Texas is last year I never bought into them. I never bought into Quinn Ewers at quarterback, and Arch Manning couldn't even start on that team. Everyone is wanting to hand him the Heisman. He was never going to win a national championship, and you had a quarterback behind him that could not even start on that team. And when Ewers came back from injury, guess where Arch Manning went? Right back to the bench.
Guys, we're pulling this quote right here because when Arch Manning's winning the Heisman Trophy, I'm playing this right here.
I'm just not buying into all the hype. They're just wanting to hand everything to him. The Heisman, he's going to be the best. Texas is going to win the whole thing. I'm not buying into it yet.
The rest of that roster is really good too.
They've got some players. I'll give you that. Now, if Arch Manning goes into Columbus and throws for 304 touchdowns,
that's going to be a fun one, isn't it?
we'll see. We're going to know. We're going to know all we need to know about Arch Manning week one.
Yes, we are, man. That's going to be fun.
I'm glad you said that, Eric, because Peyton Manning can go on live TV and say, "Hey, this kid makes throws I never even thought about making." But you know what? He still couldn't win the starting job in front of Quinn Ewers.
You guys.
For the last years. So,
I am so pulling this at the end of the year. I can't wait.
I'm so glad you said that. No, I'm optimistic that he's going to have a good season. But, what's a good season? They go 10-2, and he's SEC Player of the Year, and
Yes.
they don't win a national championship. Is that a failure? You can still have a good season, and I'm just pumping the brakes a little bit because he's on such a pedestal right now. He couldn't start the last 2 years over Quinn Ewers.
I'm all on the Arch Manning train, man. I mean, I think he's got potential to be a good player. I mean, look at the family he's from.
Plus, he's shown some. If he hadn't shown anything, I'd say, he's just a Manning, but he's shown us that he's pretty darn good.
He threw for 900 yards in 3 games and 10 touchdowns.
That's
pretty good. Pretty good.
Pretty good.
well, the kid's got to know something. I mean, it's a given. And given the opportunity, I think he's going to be able to rise to the occasion. And he worked under another really good quarterback. I can't stand when people are sitting here Arch Manning. No.
Really good.
Quinn Ewers was great. He was a top 5, arguably, quarterback in America last year. He single-handedly, he was a big part of why they were as successful. And so
I agree with you, Grant.
You factor in this Arch Manning kid who, look at his last name, look at his family tree, A, and B, he's already played under a really good quarterback and has learned things and picked things up. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't have one of the best football IQs in the entire country. I think the kid's going to be able to just dissect the game in ways that you just don't see from all quarterbacks. So is he going to be the best quarterback in the SEC? Only time will tell with that. Going back to Lenore Sellers at South Carolina, I think he's probably in the conversation as the best quarterback in the SEC this coming year. But I think when the season's over, you're going to be able to make a case for Arch Manning being up there in the 2, 3, or 4, probably the 5 slot in the entire conference. So only time will tell with Arch Manning. It's almost a little bit of a mystery at this point, but I think if we revisit the same subject here, the same question in a month and a half, I think we're going to have maybe a more clear answer.
No doubt.
Yeah, and I'm not rooting against the kids, but don't lose sight of the fact that Texas had the number one defense in the SEC last year. I think they only gave up 283 yards a game. So
Exactly.
all you need to really do is go out and get 14, 17 points a game to get a win. And I mean, not to discredit Quinn Ewers, but he was a great game manager and he was a great quarterback. But Arch might have a great year. I hope he does. But I'm not going to crown him yet.
By the way, that game is 32 days away. And according to ESPN, $333 is the get in the door ticket right now for Texas at Ohio State.
I think Ohio State's minus 2.5.
That sounds about right. That's probably where I'd put it. But I like Texas's chances.
I mean, the first weekend of football is going to be fantastic with Texas, Ohio State, and then you have LSU and Clemson. I mean, talk about two teams stepping out of their conference to try to get a statement win. It doesn't get any bigger than that.
Guys, I've been sitting here telling people close to me here this week that, like, I'm craving that week one. Like, I can't wait to sit my rear end on the couch all day and just watch football. Now, I'm going to the IU game, the first game of the year, but it's a day game, so I can come back home and watch the nightcap. But that first week's going to be really good. I'm especially looking forward to week 0 with that intriguing matchup of Iowa State and Kansas State over in Ireland. I think that's going to be a great table setter for the season to come, and it's going to be entertaining football, and it's going to be the most competitive football we've seen in months. So I circled that one. I don't know about you guys, but what are some of the matchups you circled in week 0 or week 1? I guess kind of all the same thing, but what are some of the big ones that you guys have circled? I'm curious.
I got one in the SEC, guys. 6 o'clock later that day on August 30th on the SEC network, Winkers Wright and the Illinois State Redbirds go into Oklahoma looking for the upset. I'm predicting 250 yards and 4 touchdowns for the Illinois State senior. And an upset over the Sooners.
Isn't it weird that we're talking college football and Oklahoma doesn't even get brought up unless they're playing Illinois State?
That's right.
And, I mean, how much longer is Brent Venables going to be allowed to coach that team?
It's a good question.
Good question. He better do something big this year. I don't know that he makes it through the year.
Well, I think one thing the NIL is doing, what the NIL has done is it's going to make coaches, their jobs a lot more safe, because the coaches' buyout, some of these buyouts are insane. We've been picking on Lincoln Riley. His buyout's $75 million. USC's never going to buy that out because they need that money for the NIL.
By the way, if you want to buy me out from the Central Indiana Sports Report, I'll do it for 7.5.
I'm just saying that the NIL is really going to make the coaching job a lot more secure. Just money based, it's going to, without a doubt.
Yeah, that's a good point with the NIL. And I was rewatching a College Game Day episode from this past year, and Nick Saban said it. He goes, if you don't pay the right players with your NIL, you're going to be shit out of luck.
Right.
And he's 100% right in that you got to be able to recruit better with the NIL because you got to know what you want to spend your money on at this point. It's like going to buy a new pair of shoes. It's like, oh, well, can I keep these cleaner, or are these shoes going to last longer with what I'm doing? I mean, it's a no-brainer, but you have to know what you're spending your money on before you spend your money. I mean, there's no point in recruiting a kid if you know you're not going to be able to pay him enough, or you don't think he's worth the money that you have within your program to pay him?
First weekend of the year that I'm going to be watching, no doubt about it, is going to be LSU going to Clemson. I know Clemson's kind of grasped the transfer portal a little bit. They had a great recruiting year with Dabo Swinney, and I look for them to bounce back this year. But, LSU, I know they're coached by me and Eric's favorite coach of all time, Brian Kelly. However, they do have probably the best quarterback in the SEC in Nussmeier going in there. I think that game's going to be a real shootout. I look for LSU to go in there and win that game. I'm not even sure what the spread is at this point. It doesn't appear to be a line on that game, but you got to appreciate two top teams like that scheduling that game, the first game, right out of the gate, and that's going to establish a lot of momentum for the winner, no doubt.
Well, obviously, we got Notre Dame going to Miami.
Didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Forgot about that one, didn't we? Carson Beck, second in the nation with the NIL. He's making about $5 million to go to Miami this year. So Notre Dame returns back to the Orange Bowl where we won our last game there.
That's a Sunday night.
That is a Sunday night game. Also, that's the game of the weekend for me. But also locally, Ball State Purdue play that weekend. That'll be interesting to keep an eye on.
Don't you even
Purdue
dare.
may get
Don't
their
you even
Purdue
dare
might
predict.
get their only win. And then also Nebraska Cincinnati is kind of intriguing, I think, because Nebraska is one of those teams in the Big Ten I picked. They're like teetering 5, 6, 7 in the league. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out with them.
Syracuse, Tennessee, any interest in that one?
No, I think Syracuse is going to be really down this year.
Florida State, Alabama, any?
I was going to mention them. I'm glad you brought that up. I think that Florida State program's at a crossroads. Hosting Alabama, you heard the rumors. I don't know if you guys heard the rumors, but Nick Saban apparently has already agreed to be Florida State's next coach next year.
No.
He has put that to bed, saying that's not true, but that broke.
That would be
Yeah.
something else.
So there's a lot of rumors about Nick Saban coming back to coaching.
It's a place that's very easy to recruit to.
Yes.
Way easier than Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Yeah, you would think, but he has put that to bed and said there's no truth to any of that. Urban Meyer actually on an interview
That'd be
I watched,
interesting too.
he had mentioned that Nick Saban would go to the NFL, that he'll never come back to college, but we'll see.
We kind of mentioned it briefly earlier, but Texas and Ohio State is the first headline game of the day on August 30th. That's huge. Ohio State opens up as 2.5-point favorites at home. To answer the question earlier about LSU and Clemson, Clemson's favored 3.5 at this point, subject to change, of course. But yeah, those big ones, of course, you're always looking at them. The two I'm looking forward to are Virginia Tech and South Carolina, which is on Sunday afternoon at 3:00 on ESPN. That'll be a good Sunday afternoon football game. And then the Monday night game on Labor Day Monday, September 1st, TCU at North Carolina. Bill Belichick coaching his first ever college game, which rightfully so, give him the national spotlight like that, and see how he's able, see how he's going to be able to do it after college. And it'll be interesting, but I'm honestly really looking forward to that TCU North Carolina game on Monday night, 8:00 on ESPN. It's at North Carolina, but TCU opens up as 3-point favorites.
I'm great that you brought that up, Grant, because I was listening to sports radio, and I think North Carolina has 8 games that are nationally televised.
Wow.
So they're bought into the Bill Belichick narrative at North Carolina, and I don't know, realistic how well he's going to do, but we're going to find out on a national stage.
Also, that Friday night, August 29th, there's Auburn at Baylor on Fox and Georgia Tech at Colorado on ESPN. Do either of those games hold any interest? We love Dion.
I love Dion, so I'll
Get
pay
well,
attention.
bud.
Yeah, I'll pay attention to Colorado just because I enjoy watching Dion and listening to his hot takes.
Nothing interesting about Baylor or Auburn?
I don't find anything. I'm sorry. I know you're War Eagle, but I just
They'll be back.
Hugh Freeze is gonna take him a minute down there.
All right, guys, let's make some SEC predictions. Who's going to be your champion, Grant?
I really, at this point, preseason prediction, I like Texas to maybe win the SEC again. I think Alabama maybe had a little bit of a, I don't want to say crossroads like we were talking about with Florida State, but Alabama may not be on the same level that they were when they had Saban, and you kind of saw them have what was a down year for Alabama.
I think you're right, Grant.
Last season, but that doesn't mean they're not a good team. I'm not saying they're not a good team, because they would go into any other conference besides maybe the Big Ten with the powerhouses of Ohio State and Oregon and all them. I don't even got to mention them. And still probably fall where they would in the SEC, but you put them in any other Power 4 conference, and they're probably right up there to win it. So with that being said, I think you take Alabama off the table with that. Again, I really like Texas, and I think it could come down again to a rematch of last year with Texas and Georgia. I just think that Georgia's Georgia, you know what I mean? And we talked about it with Gunnar Stockton. He's a good quarterback. He's going to be one to look out for. I think Texas could win the SEC, have a good shot at winning the national championship. But I think for my national champion, honestly, I think it could come down to Ohio State again. Like they've reloaded that roster. Now their quarterback is a question with Julian Sayens. I believe is how you say his name. And he's going to be a newcomer, but he's at Ohio State for a reason. It's because their staff feels like he fits their system. And he's going to have so many good weapons around him, and they've returned Jeremiah Smith, who's going to be a Heisman candidate and would be probably one of my favorites to win the Heisman Trophy, along with Penn State's quarterback and Drew Aller. So it comes down to the SEC and the Big Ten once again in terms of winning the national championship and who's going to be the best player in the country this year when it's all said and done. But those are just some of my early predictions. Those will obviously probably change as the year goes on, but that's probably where I'm at on it.
Well, I think the SEC champion is going to come down. This is a three-team race between Texas, Georgia, and LSU. And I give the nod to Texas. I might have sounded critical of Arch Manning earlier in the podcast, but I think he's going to be able to lead this team. I think they'll win the SEC. I think they're going to be in the national title game against, man, I love to say Notre Dame, but it's probably going to be Ohio State. I think Texas is going to win the national championship, but I give the Heisman. My front runner is Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State.
Yeah, not so fast on your Jeremiah Smith take, guys. We'll start with the SEC. I agree with Ryan. Texas, LSU, Georgia, I think are the top three teams. I'm going to take.
It's a sweep. We all say Texas. That's weird. I did not think that's how it was going to go earlier in the conversation.
And I'm basing that totally on coaching because I think LSU's got the bet. Right now, I would take Garrett Nussmeier over Arch Manning today.
I think that's fair.
September 1st, I may switch. After I want to see him in Columbus. But I give Texas a slight edge over them because Brian Kelly never wins the big game. But my Heisman pick, this is a slam dunk for me. The best quarterback in the country is in Clemson. Klubnik. He will be the best quarterback this year. He's going to be your Heisman winner. And the reason I don't like Jeremiah Smith for the Heisman, I think he's the best player in football, but not one wide receiver has won the Heisman, and I think one has won it in 35 years. It doesn't happen. If the quarterback for Ohio State can put up the numbers to give Jeremiah Smith Heisman numbers, that quarterback's going to be up there to win that Heisman, not him. That's my only knock against Smith being the Heisman.
Right. Exactly right.
But for the record, Jeremiah Smith, best offensive player in college football. But I don't think he wins the Heisman. I'm going Klubnik.
You said no wide receivers won the Heisman. Travis Hunter just won it last year.
He's the first one to win it since like 90, since Desmond Howard.
And he played both sides of the ball. It's different.
It's been won in 35 years, and he's the one.
If it had been just for a receiver, he would not have won.
That's true, Greg. Good point.
Right, but, and I agree with the fact that Jeremiah Smith's going to have some support at quarterback, obviously. And quarterback's got to be able to get him the ball, but I mean, he's the most dynamic player offensively in college football. So, but I do like your take on Cade Klubnik at Clemson. He's going to have a really, really big year.
Eric, you didn't pick your national champion.
Oh, my national champion? I have got, write it down, Penn State versus Clemson in the championship game. And I'm going with the Heisman Trophy winner and the Clemson Tigers. National champs.
I'm going Texas over Notre Dame for the national champion. And Winker's right, your Heisman Trophy winner. Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much to Eric and Ryan and our special guest Grant Shouse for joining me for the College Football Report. One of the things I was looking forward to most when starting the Central Indiana Sports Report was talking to old friends about sports. So doing this segment every week during the college football season is one of my favorites. And thank you so much for listening. Please share this podcast with the college football fan in your life and help spread the word about the Central Indiana Sports Report. That we're here talking about Central Indiana sports every single day. Appreciate it. Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.